America's Promise Alliance, I have for the past 5 years focused on youth engagement, making sure young people are engaged in our mission. You've heard a lot about America's Promise and our work already, and you've heard some great youth voices already. But I've been challenged every day for the past 5 years of how do we engage young people in the Grad Nation campaign. So I've, in the past, gone to the more traditional engagements. So we have young people on our board of directors, there's one over there, and our trustees. We have young people at our events. We've done grants. We've done a lot of different projects. But we're still not making the impact that we could. And we're a unique organization in the sense that we're idea sharers. And so one day, while I'm doing my normal job, a book lands on my desk. Tina Rosenberg's Join the Club. Anybody read this book? Okay, before I get to this book, since we don't have many readers of it, what was it like when you walked in here? I need a couple of examples. So when you walked into this room versus perhaps your morning session, what was the difference? How about right here? More upbeat, jovial.
It was exciting and folks like introduce themselves.
Okay. Welcoming. And what back there?
Also a little confusing and chaotic.
Also confusing and chaotic. It was an element of surprise. So in a sense, you know what happened? You guys were peer pressured into doing something that we wanted you to do. And in this sense, it was positive. We wanted you to sit in these seats and learn and meet these nice students. So this book is a lot about peer pressure. I read stories about teen smoking. I read stories about overthrowing dictators, calculus class for minorities, and a whole variety of things. And our CEO kept saying, well, Cody, can't you do something with this? I'm like, what does this have to do with graduation? So after I read this book, I'm like walking around my normal life, and I start seeing peer pressure everywhere. I go to a baseball game. Who knows the wave? We don't need to do it yet. We're still awake, but we might do it later. That's an element of peer pressure, the person next to you. Think about fashion. When you start, everybody wearing the same pair of shoes, and you see a group. We're all influencing each other. We're all changing behaviors. And so our goal is to change behavior. It's to get kids to graduation. So we know they need a lot of supports to do that. They need a lot of help from caring adults, but they also need a lot of help from each other. And so that was the focus of this project that we did in this past year. This is a big idea, so it's a big what. And we're going to learn about the small hows. So the big what came from this book. So where are my Vanna Whites? Stand up. All right, I need my Vanna Whites. I had to explain to 3 of the 4 of them who Vanna White was. I know, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have told you. All right, so bring up my red signs. Bring up my red signs. So Tina Rosenberg's book about peer pressure, I picked out some themes that started to make a lot of sense on me on changing behaviors. First and foremost was fear. Raise this one up high. We often use fear. Even America's Promise Alliance talks about the number of dropouts, the dropout crisis, the dropout, this is bad, and drugs and alcohol and abuse, and we heard some of it today, and it's really hard to get bogged down, hard not to get bogged down in all of the fear. But really what this book is about is that fear's not going to work. What's going to work is social norming. So the idea is if everybody around you is doing the same thing, you're more likely to do that. So think about those clothes you're wearing or the wave. If everyone's starting to do that, wouldn't you be more likely to do that? So a kid who knows somebody else who's dropped out is more likely to drop out. There's really soft data around this, but we're starting to feel it. So we know that we want kids to be talking about graduation, not dropping out. So not to use the fear of your life is going to be miserable and this and that and the other. The idea here is to say that everyone's graduating. Isn't it great? Let's all get there together. All right, my next one. How about you? So what do you got there? Raise it up and do your expression.
Negative facts.
So we use negative facts all the time. We talk about every 26 seconds. We change that number. Drop out. So the same thing of the fear. It's a lot of fear. What do they need?
Positive examples.
Positive examples. So the idea is I'm surrounded on either side of me by a lot of positive examples of actually people that in my peer group, the people that look like me, the people that I know as a friend, are doing the positive things. That's what makes the difference. All right, how about over here? What do you got?
Long-term future.
Long-term future. We have pictures of being a a teenager over here in a high school, it's really hard at that time. It might even be really hard for you if you're 30, 40, 50, or 60 to think about your long-term future. Really, it's so far away, it's hard to think about that. The idea from this book is what you need to do is focus on the now. So instead of talking to a freshman about graduation, let's get through freshman year. Let's get through this week. Let's get through tomorrow. So that was one of our other major concepts. And our last one, we have a room full of lots of experts. So there is a lot of expertise in this room. But that might not be what young people need. They might need more relatable folks. So the idea is that you can have all the expertise, and we know the facts, just like in the teen smoking. Everybody's seen the disease lung picture, but that's expertise. That's not going to really necessarily make you change behavior. But if someone else who is your age group and somebody that you know is angry against big tobacco, you're more likely to engage because it's relatable to you. So these 4 things were given to 4 schools, 3 of which are here today. And I said, look, I need 3 things. I need an innovating adult, a supportive, caring adult that we talk about with America's Promise all the time, that is okay with me not giving them instructions. And this is usually hard for teachers to say, hey, I don't do X, Y, and Z. Like, wait, no, you're just supposed to come up with it. These are major concepts. So we're going to hear from some of those great caring adults later. The next thing is we needed 10 to 12 non-traditional leaders. And when I say non-traditional leaders, this is something I've been trying to tap into for my 5 years in America's Promise. I get amazing resumes and stories from awesome students who are doing awesome things. Student body president, track star, resumes longer than mine. But I know that's not the only leaders that are in school. They're not the only influencers in school. So I knew when talking to teachers, when we started doing focus groups, that they knew those kids who may not be in a whole bunch of clubs, may not be in any clubs, but are walking the halls and know everybody, and people look to their fashion sense, and they look to when they're goofing off, that maybe I'll goof off. And so the idea was to attract non-traditional leaders. We need a better term for that, so if anybody has one, I'm taking suggestions. But that's what we went with. So we had 1 caring adult, 10 to 12 students to start as a goal, and then we said, for the school year, what can you do? We gave them about this much money, which I think is spent all on t-shirts. But it's okay. We gave that free choice to them to make innovations happen. So the idea is that you guys are joining our learning team. So what important part of this was that we talk to each other. These sites talk to each other at least a month to say, hey, what are you doing? Because we were all learning. So you guys are part of our learning team now. We're going to hear from the students, and we're going to hear from the adults. And as a group, we're going to brainstorm how we get more of this joy that you found in this room in more schools in the U.S. You ready to learn? Yeah. Are you ready to learn? Yeah. All right. Thank you, Vanas. Let me have your stuff back. And then can I have my students up here to share? Yeah. No. Oh, I'm good. Okay. I'm going to stand off to the side. And we're actually going to, here, scoot down so you're not behind the school, so nothing like that. You guys are the learners, the teachers this time, okay? All right, so my first question to them, they may have received these in advance, but, you know, it's like Jeopardy. They don't know the answers yet, right? So, exactly. So the first question I said, and what I challenged the caring adults to do was invite these leaders in the most unusual, unpredictable way. So tap into these students any way you want to, but I want you to get non-traditional leaders if possible. So what was it? And there was no name for this program. First and foremost, I must say, we're not trying to create 1,000 Trues and AAAs and Shepherds. So I said, you can call it whatever you want, because it's really going to be about your school. We're not trying to create one program that's in every school in America. We're trying to spread this concept. So I said, send out those invitations, and we're going to go down the line for those who are answering that question. Introduce yourself and say, what was it like to receive this invitation?
I'm Grad. I'm from Norwood, Ohio, and I'm a sophomore. And at the beginning of the school year, we had 2 overlapping projects. The first thing we were trying to put into effect was a teen summit that the group of Teen Voice had started working on last year. And last year they just had like invitations on the walls at school, and personal invitations to each of the advisory classes, and we had over 40 upperclassmen responses. Our summit was regarding how teens can stay sober and drug-free, and there was over 200 freshmen that attended, and it was very interactive and it went well. And we got our ideas from attending Grad Nation last year, the youth conference.
All right, so what happened in Charlotte?
Okay, I'm Michael Baker. I'm a junior at Olympic High School, and our school is an inner city high school. We have the same issues that all inner city high schools have. We are 95% minority. We have 70% free and reduced lunch. Sorry. And this opportunity is just phenomenal. It's a phenomenal opportunity to have as non-traditional leaders. And we have helped reduce our suspension by 90%. We have only had 80 suspensions, whereas we have had up to 700 suspensions in the past. We have had no fights that has resulted in any physical violence. We are very proud of ourselves. This is my partner's and we have had a positive impact on our school, and it shows in our report cards, classrooms, and hallways. There were no fights and everything. But getting to the question, to receive an invite to join this group is one of the best things I've done throughout my high school year. I was thinking to myself at first, when I first got the invite, how would this help me? Why do I need this in the future? How would this make me become a better person? But as I continued and proceeded with this group, I've seen a change in my life. It's made me a better person. It teaches you how to respect others, such as adults, young teenagers, but not only them, it teaches you self-respect, how to respect yourself. And if someone sees you doing something positive, especially in a group like this, they're going to look at you and say, well, let me follow in his footsteps. I want to do something positive like this.
Well, hi, my name is Tanaya, and I'm from Blake High School in Silver Spring, so 45 minutes away. And to get an invitation to join this group, I was really curious because I was kind of just sitting in class, and then someone walked in and they gave me my name on it and said, "Report to this class after school." And then when they told me that we were going to help students using positive influence, I was kind of excited because I felt empowered that I could help interact with people and try to build. We were focused on dropouts in our school, and I was excited to help people not see their future as negative, and so that they can help themselves and challenge themselves and motivate their friends and their peers to do better. So, well, we started with the freshmen because freshman is a hard year to go into after middle school. You just go into high school with all these new classes and all these new people, and it was very hard myself. So I was happy to help the freshmen so that they can change and so that they would be prepared for the upcoming years of high school.
So again, this group was given a positive challenge. I know there's a question. We're going to have plenty of time to question these people for sure. They have a lot of knowledge, but we're going to get there. I have a question for the second group of people. Really, especially too, I don't think we've touched on your shirts and the name of your group and how your group evolved. So if you could share just a little bit about how you got that invitation, you were in school, where did it go?
I'm Sarah, and I'm from Norwood High School, and I'm a sophomore. So after we hosted our team summit that was aimed at the freshmen for the drug and alcohol prevention, we invited any of the upperclassmen who would help with that to stay and continue with the idea of their influencing. The group kind of dwindled after that because it was just such a long period of time, and that was our free bill. So we had this idea, and it evolved after just meeting multiple times. I believe the first few meetings it was more of just a let's get to know each other, let's get to know how we think, and then after that we developed this idea that we call the waterfall effect. And pretty much we just want every older student to touch the lives of the younger student going down through 12th grade down to K. And we named our group True because it's just something that is frequent in our school. A lot of people say true, and it just kind of seemed right to us. So at every meeting, we have a warm-up question, and then we come up with ideas of actual events that we could do. And before he came here, a couple weeks ago, we hosted the True God experience, and we got 25% of the freshman class down and we asked them general questions in a concentric circle, and then after that we asked them the overall idea of what can we do to help students like you graduate, because this is a problem and we want to attack it. And we got some really good ideas. And it was just not any particular freshman, it was just any of them. So we had a really good mix of different types of freshmen. And now they receive quotes every week to their phone. They signed up for this idea and encouraging quotes every day. And then coming up, we're going to speak to the middle schoolers. So now we did the freshmen, and now we're going to go down to the middle school. And we're really excited just to see our plan evolve and change.
Where did shepherds come from? Thank you.
Right, well, we came up with our name. I guess you can see ours as shepherd, and this is our slogan on here. It's guiding in the right direction, because that's what shepherds do, right? And we feel like Miss Cody Oliver said, we are not like your not everyday leaders, right? Like we're not your football captain or your cheerleader captain. We're just regular students, just like everybody else. But we feel like every single student at school can be a leader. It doesn't matter if you're like a captain or not. Like every single person can be a leader. And then we feel like if we can help them realize that they have that power to lead others, why not do it, right? So that's how we came up with our names, because we're not your regular everyday leaders, but we certainly can help them become that leader. So that's how we came up with our name.
Hello, I'm Victoria Alexis. I go to Blake High School as a sophomore. We originally named the promise lines when we met Cody, but then we wanted to narrow our name down to a description that represented us, which was the Alliance for Academic Achievement, AAA in short. We want to prevent kids from dropping out at an early age, and we want to help them reach their maximum capacity in academics. And at first we wanted to focus on the whole school, but we didn't have enough people nor time to get everything done in time. So we focused on the 9th graders after we got data and it showed that they needed the most help. So with that, we focused all our efforts on helping the freshmen.
You guys interested? Excited? Doesn't that sound cool? We're going to need to learn more. So you guys sit down. We're going to learn from your observers, aka your adults, but you will be back to share some results. So inviting, we'll go one at a time. So let's go with Norwood's up here because she was hiring to go. So let's learn through, and then we'll learn from AAA, and we've got Shepherds in the back.
Thank you.
So yes, these folks really accepted my call. I kind of knew some of them, kind of. Sometimes it was a little arm twisting to say, hey, can you take this idea, this tiny little bit of grant, and say, can you make something happen? Because we really could encourage a lot of people around the country. And so I tried to give some, they reached into the resources that they knew. We shared resources over the phone. But the learning, it's all about the learning. We wanted this year to be about the learning. So they have captured their lessons learned. So they're here to give them.
Well, I'm Glenna Edwards, and I'm from True in Norwood, Ohio. I'm excited to be their mentor. And I'm just so excited by all the students that I can hardly speak right now because it was just great to hear from everybody. But here's just kind of like lessons learned, the top ones for me. One, food is very important.
Yeah, so they got some food over here. So maybe
I know, and I'm like, how did I not think of that? How did they not think of that? But you know, at every meeting we had food. We figured out what their favorite snacks were, and they just seem to look forward to it. So it's a way to bring people together around the table. They really like the Scooby snacks now. And one of the students, his name's Brandon. We weren't able to bring our boys today, but we love them and we're thinking of them back home. We've got all the girls, but we asked at the right before Christmas break, what's one thing that you haven't shared that you're thinking but just haven't said? And he said, I just want you to know, I see where you come from with food, but I really care about this too. And so I loved that moment. And then another favorite moment of mine is a gentleman named Marcus, and I didn't know this until like January, but he was in danger of not graduating from high school. He mentioned during one of our groups that his mom doesn't even think he's graduating, like she doesn't believe him, and a lot of supports have gone into that, including like school social worker. But right now, he's like trying to get his percent done every day. And so May 30th, we will be celebrating his graduation. But you also need to know about this, and so anyone who works in school, and probably most of you do, in some way, shape, or form, is we fight a lot of stigmas. Marcus was suspended last year for pretty bad offense, and so he's trying to turn his life around and be positive, and he tells us all these goals, but when we were thinking about bringing him here, that was kind of a no-way thing, in terms of the school's perception, which we totally get. There's, you're representing your school, and it's not been that much time, but I think it's important to just love kids where they are, because, gosh, how hard is it if you only have 4 years to change somebody's perspective of you, and last year was not a great year for you. So that's tough. Another thing we learned, Raphael is a great example. They were doing the True Dot experience that you saw on screen, and at the end we overheard him saying, gosh, this encouragement is kind of for me. Like, I need to get with it on that one class that's causing me problems. And so another example of, he was one class that could have kept him from graduating, but thanks to him and his dad and his social worker, he's going to graduate on May 30th also. So that lesson learned is about they're so in the moment sometimes that they may not know that there's a problem. And then care. So when the teens led this awesome brainstorm at the end of their session, and they said, well, how can we encourage youth to graduate? What would make it better for you? They had lots of different things that they listed, but there was a theme that was kind of like thread throughout every single thing they had to say, and you know what it was? Care about me. They were saying, make class interesting, actually teach, don't expect me to learn from a book, all by myself. It was all those kinds of things that was very inspiring, but yet painful to hear, because how many kids feel like somebody doesn't care about them?
Hi, I'm Monica Vuliak. I'm from James Hubert Blake High School in Silver Spring, Maryland, right here in Montgomery County. So, two things I want to share with you. Working with the 9th grade really did help us focus and target our efforts. And one big thing that I found out in presenting to 9th graders, working with them one-on-one, dropping into their classes, is that there's not a single 9th grader that comes into high school who is saying, I'm going to fail. I don't want to be here. I don't want to graduate. There isn't a single soul that does that. Yet we have these statistics that say that 20% of our students across the country are not going to graduate. So it was heartwarming to see when we did reach out to the 9th graders. We were still in that transitionary period of, okay, high school is big, it's ominous, it's exciting, but at the same time very scary. That they still have that motivation and the want to do well. So going into their science classes and providing them with the treats that according to them they want. In every single survey, what's going to motivate you to get good grades? Food. Teachers who reach out to me and give me more chances. Just very basic things where it goes back to the focus on the now and the relatability of all of us. So it was very nice to be working with a group of students who appreciated the efforts of my girls. And in moving forward, they would see us in the hallways and they'd be very excited. What's the Alliance doing now? When are you coming back into our classes? Come in one day so that we can go into and do this. So that connection with them, it was very exciting. So and I was surprised to see that. I just thought, oh, they wouldn't receive us as well as they did. On the other hand, I only had 6 girls to manage a challenge, this whole idea of changing the perspective and the mindset of 400 students. So the other piece that we found out is that there are many other groups like us who want to do interesting things, but no one has approached them to lead. So where you have an international club that's all about meeting and talking about foods and culture, the minute that you tell them, we have this problem and we need your help, we need many hands, they're right on board. Tell us what we can do. Hispanic Leadership Club, same thing. What do you mean? What can we do? So the more clubs and sponsors that I included, the larger the movement became. So my 6 girls, we could just sit there and decide, all right, this week we want to do this activity, this, following on. It was, again, very nice to receive that support. In turn, our administration, sitting down with them and saying, why don't we ask that every single sponsor, that every single club group have some sort of a school improvement target inside their mission? That, yeah, it's great that you're planning this food drive, but what about the kids here? What about us? What are we doing for this particular group? So between having those, the lovely 9th graders who, all 416 of them were, yes, come see me, I want to graduate, I want to do well, I want to get my GPA up higher. And then the other clubs were just saying essentially, yes, lead us, be it, tell us what to do so that we can help out. So that was very enlightening.
My 3 lessons learned, I learned the first one, the very first meeting we had as a group. I sent out invitations and I invited 30 kids. And of course I had to sit down and think, well, what are my non-traditional leaders? Who are these kids? And I wanted to make sure I had equal boys, girls. So I sent out an invitation and we come to the first meeting. And I realized I didn't think ahead to realize these are non-traditional leaders. They didn't know how to help me. It was a big thing for me. They didn't know how not to wait your turn and talk. They didn't know how to deal, just general business protocols, the politeness, the professionalism. And looking back now, I think if I ever did this again, I would make sure I started that at the beginning. Because it took us some time to work through how to conduct business, how to have a meeting, how not to yell over everybody, hey, I'm talking, and learn how to work with the group. The second lesson learned, I was amazed at, and it kind of goes with what you said, how so many kids want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And they think if they're not the smartest or the most athletic or the brightest, there's no place for them to fit. And when I started reaching out to these non-conventional leaders, it was overwhelming, the kids that wanted to be in this group. It was like, hey, Ms. Langston, I want a t-shirt like that. How do we get the t-shirts? How do we get to be in the group? And as I've had a couple of kids graduate or move on, I have had no trouble getting in because once we got established, everybody wants to be part of something bigger than themselves. And that just blew me away. How I knew it was there, I just didn't realize how strongly it would be. My third lesson learned, at the very beginning, we decided as a group, I let the kids sit, they talked, they went through, once we kind of got ourselves on track on how to conduct a meeting. What do we need? How do we get our school graduating? We are, I should clarify, we're a small school. We are a group of 400 students total, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and we're a part of a larger school community. So we only have 400 in our school, which is very nice. We know everybody. And we decided, what can we do within our community to increase our graduation rate, to get everybody at school? So I just let them brainstorm. You tell me what keeps this from happening. And they came up with just 2 basic ideas. They said, everybody here needs to feel like they're a part of this family. And I said, okay, well, let's figure, that was the first. And the second was, we need to celebrate the good things that kids do, because so often we only celebrate the bad things they do. And of course, as an adult, I'm kind of guilty sometimes, and I think we all are. We forget to celebrate the good things the kids do. So we got those 2 ideas, but it took us almost 3 months to turn this around into activities. We got the ideas. The hard part was figuring out what to do with these ideas. So we ended up, as y'all saw the thing on the wall, the names on the wall back there, about once a quarter, we celebrate and we do St. Patty's Day, Valentine's Day, anything coming and going. And every kid in the school, which again, there's only 400 of us, there's not like 3,000 of us, has their name first and last, and what grade they're in, because we do it by colors, plastered all over the walls of our school. So when they come in that week, at the Monday, they come in and they wear this all day long, or all week long. And we do some decorations and keep it up. And then they also, my shepherds have taken over the 80 honor rolls, because they want to celebrate and talk about the kids that are doing the right things. And our very first, we did a talent show. And it was just so neat to see our kids, again, that don't get celebrated. We had one young man that sat and played beautifully on the piano and singing. And again, we're an inner city school. That's probably not been a cool thing to do. But when every girl in the audience,
is like swooning over him. Suddenly it became the cool thing to do. So it was tough to find those things to do that celebrated and gave them a reason to come to school.
So all of that makes the hallway seem a lot friendlier. I mean, I think those are all examples of the relationships. I love that we have that word up there. The relationships between peers, between caring adults, just what happens in the hallways. And I knew from the start of our little experiment, it was going to be really hard to build a case. If you're anybody on the nonprofit side trying to write a proposal to get funding, it's like, what are the outcomes? What are we going to get for our money? And so I was fortunate in the sense that I was to just sort of do it, not even a pilot, just a previewing of what could be possible, what could we tap into more. And so I challenged each one of them to next prepare to share. So what was the difference? What was the difference in just this, 6-8 months of this experience where you had to go from 0 to 60 with this short amount of time? I really thought, and I challenged them, I said, I hope you meet with your students twice a month. That would be really great. And then from almost all of them, they were starting to meet twice a week. So I knew that there was something there. But I would love to hear more examples of what changed in your hallways, changed in their classrooms, and changed in your neighborhoods.
I think what's most interesting is that they don't really need me anymore. They get to their group, and sometimes I just let it roll for 5 or 10 minutes because recently they just can't wait to just chit chat. And there's definitely in our group kids who would not be associating with one another if it weren't for the group. And I'm really big on connectivity anyway and connection. So this can materialize in lots of different types of groups, whether you're a circle group, council, or drama club. This happens to be our peer influencing. But that connection and knowing that they're looking out for each other. There's a gentleman named Zach in our group, and it's just neat to watch him. Like, he's looking at how to make sure everybody has a seat when he walks in the room, and he's making sure somebody has paper if they need it, and no adult need there. Just he's looking to take care of his coworkers, if you will. Just seeing. I will, when May 30th comes, I will be ribbon and hollering in my head at least at graduation, because 2 people that I didn't know before who may not have graduated are. And I love Brianna is someone who's looking out for the younger kids in our school system. So she has told me 2 or 3 times, hey, so-and-so in 7th grade needs, she doesn't say asset, but basically she's saying we need to get that person involved in this or that. Can you look that kid's name up and make sure that he's in a club or she's in a club or that kind of thing. And that's very, very powerful. Also, and Sarah, who you heard earlier, they've not realized they're working on this for a while, but they have been probably all the way since 7th grade. I've known them that long. It's exciting, and they got to come last year, and they were very inspired by Grad Nation. And they came back with an idea that ended up being very similar to what happened in peer influencing. So it was a nice fit to continue that inspiration.
One of the reasons we have the promise written on the shirt is because Victoria and Tanaya's 9th grade year was very difficult. Not for them, but for a lot of our students, particularly African American females, where we had 58 of them suspended throughout the course of last year. And I have several different mentoring groups, one which consisted of a lot of the girls who had been suspended last year. Over the course of this year, in working with these girls, that mentoring group of that particular girls disappeared. And they got absorbed by AAA. They wanted to be part of this. They wanted to make the change. They didn't want another freshman class like theirs to ever happen again in Lake High School. That was another thing that we did throughout the year, was reach out to some of our community organizations. We had the National Council of Negro Women adopt us. Again, we needed leadership training because, as Beth had said, there are a lot of dynamics that go into making organizations, particularly a student organization. So everything from communication skills to business etiquette to being able to present properly to a group of people. Okay, but but it's lovely to see how the alliance looks now versus the way it did in September, particularly when that group of non-scholars, I'll call them, the troublemakers, decided, you know what, we want to be part of this because we don't want Blake to look the way it did last year when we were part of that drama. So that has been huge for us. The other piece is that this promise will go on for years to come. Next month we have planned a recruitment meeting so that of the existing 9th grade group, we will select 10 young women who will continue with this promise and this tradition of adopting incoming 9th grade classes, specifically for keeping them engaged in school and helping them with transitions, peer mentoring, peer tutoring, all of those positive things that will help them feel more welcome and be successful in the 9th grade. So we're really excited about that as well, coming up in the next several weeks.
In our hallways, it's a friendly family atmosphere. And I think as Michael shared earlier, our suspension rate has dropped up to 300 to 400 a year in the elementary school to where it's between 60 and 70 this year. So it's been a huge drop in suspensions. My shepherds also got trained with this. Our city does peer mediation training, and so they got trained. And so now when there's any kind of conflict going on among the kids, they go in as mediators, and we worked it into our discipline system. So now instead of going straight into suspensions, the shepherd will mediate, and if we can come to an agreement between the two groups and satisfy it that way, nobody gets suspended. And it's really, everybody's wanting to get along. That suspension rates, yes. I had one young lady, her name's Latifah. She, freshman, sophomore year, she came to us and she was from a broken home. Mom was on welfare. She had a baby in the family, new baby. Latifah was just kind of going to school every day. Had a lot of anger in her. Junior year, she started figuring out that, I have teachers here that care, and I can start opening up a little bit, and I'm going to be okay here. Her senior year, we invited her into the shepherds, and at the same time, we did the peer mediation. And at the end of this year, towards the end of the semester, Mr. Burford, we have a newspaper section that has young achievers, and he had said, hey, I've got a young lady you'd like to see. And they did an article, and she was saying how now being part of the shepherds has empowered her, because when they realize they can change other people's lives, it empowers them in their own, not only to help other people, but in their own lives. And she realized she was in control of her own life, and now she's even reaching out, she's mentoring other students, and she'll be graduating this year. And is taking AP classes, so she's doing really well for our success.
Great. We're going to have a chance for questions, and who wants to hear from the young people again? Yay! You can't have it yet. You got to do one thing for us. We are going to have a 5-minute brainstorm session about the little bit you've heard here. I've seen some head noddings of things. Who else needs to know about this? Where can more of this happen? How could we spread this idea? So turn to your partner, and if you're not talking to anybody, we have a lot of students that are going to come find you and start a conversation. Just let's brainstorm a few things about who needs to know this and how we can get more of this to happen. So.
We all made the trip. There's 10 of us. Do what? We made the trip out, so there's 10 of us. Yeah. It's a lot. That's really
How do you do this?
This was their idea with the name tags. So she Googled the top 100 names and just posted them, hoping people would have them. But if they didn't, she was making name tags for people.